Hey. Welcome
So,
back to Cover to Cover. Tonight, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, uh, seminal album. One of those big albums.
this is a big
Tops,
boy. This is a big boy
tops,
album.
tops a lot of lists, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it
And
does.
if it doesn't top it, it's within like the first five.
Usually, right? You never
Yeah,
usually don't see it too far off the top five, man. I gotta say, it's a great finish, right? It was a great album to finish with.
yeah.
I think it just played out perfectly.
Yeah. I I'm going to be honest with the viewers. Um, I slacked, so I didn't do a whole lot of research. So this episode, this show might be a little lacking.
It's all
But,
it's all good. It's all
Highly,
good.
we're gonna do our best to entertain you.
Definitely.
It was 50, 80 years ago today.
What's up, John Stout? Thanks for joining, Ruli. Yes,
Good
it
to
is.
see you, John.
Thank you. We were just waiting on Jim, but
Yeah.
he might have got tied up.
If he pops in, we'll bring him in like nothing happened and
Definitely.
carry on with the show.
Definitely.
But Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is the Beatles' 8th studio album, and it's funny to think about it just being their 8th, because they released what was it, 14 albums in total. So they still had a number of albums to go after this, including like Magical Mystery Tour and the follow-up that we just recently did, the White Album. And I was reading earlier, trying to do some half-ass research, and that was addressed, the stark differences between this album and the White Album. Again, not Magical Mystery Tour, notwithstanding, it was an attempt, because it's only really an EP. It was an attempt at recapturing what they did on this album, but there's some pretty stark differences, both lyrically, songwriting, and thematically, I guess you could say, between this album and the White Album. It was released May 26th, 1967. So it's heading for 56 years old. It's getting up there. Recorded. Getting up there. Why are you laughing? Getting up there like us.
That's kidding, dude. It's 2 years older than I am, bro. My birthday's my birthday's a few days before the 26th, and you're saying it's getting up there, and it's like, yeah, buddy, I know it. It's probably aged a little better than I have. I'll just say.
They spent a little more time on this than they had the previous album, Revolver. Revolver, they took a 4-month stretch, and as anybody who's a Beatles fan knows, these albums, the albums post Rubber Soul was the era where they stopped touring and became more studio oriented. So they'd spend more time recording.
Donnie, don't you find that amazing?
It is. Yeah.
Dude, they never played any of this in front of anybody, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. when you think about bands, especially back in the day, making out an album and then touring for a year, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
they stopped touring. That's bonkers, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Who does that? Nobody.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
Exactly. That's I can't. It's just they never played this in front of anybody. Wow.
Which kind of that raises a question of, I guess, to go semi off topic, if they would have continued touring,
Mm-hmm.
would they have broken up sooner or would they have broken up later? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because with more focus on doing the tours, they might not have had as much time to fight with each other, or
Or they might have had more time to fight with each
more
other
time. Yeah, true. More time.
because they would have
But
been together for a lot more. No,
yeah,
I don't know. It could have gone either way. You think they stopped because they couldn't reproduce this at that time live?
I think that was the stuff, things that they were doing in the studio. They were concerned with not being able to reproduce it live.
Now you can. Now you can.
Oh
But
yeah,
back then it had to be an issue, right?
I think if I remember right, that issue was raised with the Revolver album.
Okay.
That they were relatively confident that they couldn't reproduce some of that stuff live, which they were the Beatles, and I think if they'd have taken enough time to do it,
Mm-hmm.
they could have recreated a lot of the stuff live. Because let's face it, not many bands, well, some of them do now, but not many bands do a whole album
Right.
live. So there's bits and
Right.
pieces that you can do.
Exactly.
But this was a concept album of sorts. It wasn't the first one, but it was a concept album of sorts. It was a psychedelic album for sure.
Yeah.
Again, not the first, but they had spent an unprecedented 129 days in the studio with this one. So you're talking 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Studio time between December of '66, so basically fresh out of the release of Revolver, they went right back into the studio to start working on this one.
Dude, but just think about Revolver, and then they followed with it's like God bless, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck. God bless. Shit.
EMI, Regent Sound, recorded in those studios, released as usual on Parlophone and Capitol, and George Martin, their fifth Beatle, producing. Another one of the things that I had read earlier, and it's funny how you forget certain things because you feel like they fit there. Like the singles that they released oftentimes weren't on the albums. So like Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields are associated with this album, but they weren't on this album.
I read that too. I read that today as well. Where would you stick those two songs in though?
In this track list, I don't know.
Where would you stick them in, man? Because
I think honestly, Strawberry Fields probably would have worked on Magical Mystery Tour better than trying to put it on this album. Penny Lane, maybe a soft close, Before a Day in the Life.
Bro. Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't stick them in. I'm sorry. I know they probably belong here, but I I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to stick them in. I think you're right. I think they should have gone to Magical Mystery Tour and just. Can you imagine that album with those two songs, bro? My God.
Yeah.
Even because those are two all-time songs, right?
Right.
God bless. But I kind of agree with what you said. It's Magical Mystery Tour. They should have stuck it there, or just did the way they did it. You know, it was almost like a prelude. Those came out before this album.
Yes, I believe so.
So it was like a prelude to what was coming, almost.
Yes. Penny Lane was released in February.
Okay, a few months before, yeah.
So it was kind of their,
mm-hmm.
And there was other ones that they had done that are associated with other albums that they technically didn't release. My wife's favorite song, "We Can Work It Out," I think is one that's associated with another album, but it was never released on an album. It was a single.
Right.
If you could call it released on an album, it was the best ofs that they did, that like the red and the blue albums.
The red and the blue. Are those included as two other albums?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But they're notable for being early compilation albums, I believe. And compilation albums were kind of a relatively new concept back then, as different from the earlier concepts of compilation albums were, like in the 50s, were compilations of the singles, because there was a certain point where they started making albums instead of just putting out a bunch of singles and then doing a. But
this album has it all, dude.
Yeah, I mean, oh, I clicked on Penny Lane. I was looking at Penny Lane. Says this was a key work of British psychedelia, and it was. To me, this album was released basically mid '67.
Okay.
So it's lumped in there with the Summer Love albums, you know, like Jefferson Airplane, Surrender Pillow, and The Doors. Love's album, all those albums. Dare I say, even though it was released in '66, Pet Sounds was part of that group. But
this was the Summer of Love.
Yeah, '67 was the Summer of Love, and it was also the year of the first big music festival, Monterey Pop.
Okay.
Which they give up live touring. They could have played there. That would have been amazing, you know, especially to front this album.
My body pop. That would have been.
Yeah. But the fact that this was part of that group in '67, and it just screams that year. It's like a footnote for that that point in history, and everything
Right.
after it, you know, it a change in the direction as far as what was released, how an album was supposed to look, um, both musically and aesthetically.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You like this album?
yeah, yeah, I do.
Me too.
I get to a point with this one where I have to quit listening to it.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those, because if I don't, I'm going to get sick of it. Because there's a lot of psychedelic throw up. if I can use that phrase.
It's listening to this album impaired is definitely a plus.
Yeah, yeah,
It's definitely a, you could say that about pretty much any album, but this album, it's a definite plus. Um but yeah, I get what you're saying. There's we'll get into the songs in a little while. I think Jim's on his way, so look out for him.
okay,
Um but I always flip flop my favorite Beatles song, and I think it's on this album. And next week it could be another song. But yeah, yeah. You need to stop listening to it because yeah, you will get tired of it.
yeah,
Yeah, it'll get too much. It's like an album, you hear it, and then you go back to it in 6 months, you hear it again, and then you know, kind of like that. But it's a freaking great album. I did. How many times did you listen to it? This.
um let's see. I've had it in my truck for quite a while. um I didn't listen to it too much this week, but last week I listened to it, I think,
Right.
twice.
Yeah.
This week I added some new
Hmm.
stuff into the rotation that I haven't
Right.
listened to in a while. But just to break up the monotony.
Right.
But there's I don't I'm trying to choose my words. Um, there's songs on here that are well known, like Lucy
Hmm.
and um, When I'm 64.
I think I know where you're going.
But there's also, when people talk about deep cuts,
Right.
this album has a nice repertoire of deep cuts.
Yes.
Um,
Definitely.
for instance, I'm looking at one right now, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite.
Huh?
Such a weird song.
There's nothing like that song, right? I don't know too many songs like that song.
Right. It's still so good.
It's so good. It's not great, but it's perfect for this album, right?
Yeah.
It's perfect for this album, and it makes with the other songs around it, it's perfect, right? Because it's not like
Yeah.
it's not my favorite song on the album, but it works when it comes in. It
Yeah.
just,
And we've talked about this before with albums, song placement.
yes.
Um,
Well, that's what kind of like we were talking about with the Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane. Where would you place? It's hard.
yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine it other than the way it is and you've heard it, right? It's like you expect one song and you know the next song that's coming, and it's like, okay, and a Benefit of Mr. Kite is something like kind of like that, right?
And I guess going along with the song placement, to close side one, why not?
Mm-hmm.
It just fits. Because you run through the songs, having two two versions of the title track.
Right. Yes.
How many bands have done that? I can't think of any offhand right now. I don't know if Jim can think of any doing two versions of a song on the same album. I mean, it's
And it works.
yeah.
Oh, you know what?
Sorry we're late, guys.
No, you're good.
I lost track of time. I thought it was at 9.
I mentioned that to Donnie. I mentioned that to Donnie. I had a feeling.
Oopsie.
I had a feeling. It's all good. We just got started a little while ago. We're just talking about what are we talking about, Donnie?
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yes, that they played this. They have. Well, go ahead. Yes, there it is.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
For the inner sleeve.
Gatefold.
Show the back. That's beautiful, bro.
And it
Great album cover.
to have the lyric sheet on the back of the album,
Yeah, that was like they were one of the first people to do that.
freaking great.
There's the cutouts.
Oh. Yes.
Pretty
I'm a
cool.
big proponent of the interior sleeve. Yes.
And here they have the identifier of everybody on the cover.
Yes.
They put a lot of time in that album cover artwork. and
It
stuff.
was the most expensive album cover at the time. It was like $37,000 or something crazy like that on the album cover.
And it's an all-timer. It's an all-timer. It captures everything of the time.
Yeah.
So, did we jump ahead? We go straight to the album. I mean, I don't know. What have we missed so far?
Oh, we've just been talking.
Okay.
Nothing.
I don't want to jump too far.
No,
ahead.
Like Donnie
Kind
had.
of reintroduced it and all that stuff.
Yeah. Did you say how many units did this sell? How many?
No, I did not.
I am pretty sure this was the first Beatles album that was the same for the U.S. and American, so that they were both
Yes.
produced the same. Because a lot of times they would like the people that were putting out the American one would like fiddle with it and change.
Why would
stuff.
they do that?
I don't know.
You guys have any idea why?
They really broke down on like don't touch our record.
It's strange.
Yeah.
I mentioned that I think the last show or the show before last, where it's like, why does the European or the everywhere else they have a different version with different songs
Or even different
or
album
added
covers.
songs? Yeah, or
Hard
or
Day's Nights cover is completely different.
Why is that?
just let it all be the same.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was the Pistols because the Pistols had like one color album and US
Yeah.
released.
That's right.
it.
That's right.
And then there was other albums that had a song or two extra on.
Rubber Soul's missing like 5 tracks on the U.S. press, which is crazy.
I'm sure there a lot of it had to do with probably distribution,
Yeah.
things like that, because it things were strange back in the. I mean, if look at comic books with the Library of Congress and the numbering situation, changing the name of the title of a book, but they had to keep the numbering the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure it had to do a lot with distribution for those reasons.
That and
Who was distributing it? And
this is when I guess hits was very like a necessary thing. Like the Beatles wrote out on 45s and stuff. That's why they made most of their money. So
Right.
I guess maybe thought process was these songs won't do super well, so why add them, kind of thing. Which
And what? Release them as 45s or?
no, just not add them.
I
completely. I don't know.
don't know. I have no idea why. It's just strange.
I mean, at this point, you wouldn't second guess anything the Beatles released.
Exactly.
yeah, 8 albums in, you're like,
I mean, and they're all bangers, you know.
yeah.
How can you hold
Especially
these
coming
500?
off the Revolver.
That's crazy.
To date, this album has released 11 million units in just the U.S.
Jeez.
32 million worldwide. So I think it's safe to say a lot of people have this album,
I got 2 of them.
or they've bought in a couple copies. Because
Yeah.
I know Unruly he has a habit of buying
Is that just
formats.
vinyl?
No, that's everything.
Okay, that's everything.
Yeah, that's everything. That's
And it's 11 million in the U.S.
Yep, just the U.S.
I would think
32.
it'd be more, man. Honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
This is also one of those albums that gets remastered every 2.5 years.
Yeah,
There's always a new one.
that's a nice copy you have.
Yeah, I think this was 2018.
And I suppose it's a foregone conclusion to state that it peaked at number 1. So we'll move on from that.
Does it say how many weeks it was at number 1 by chance?
Every week.
Every week. 8 days a week.
8
8 days a week, exactly.
It's okay if you don't find it. It's fine.
Jeez, number 1 in like every country.
This album had to be.
So the reissue peaked at number 1 as well when it
Yeah.
first released on CD.
You got to figure it came out in May. This was the album of the summer. You know, these songs must have been the summer song. I'm just guessing.
That's crazy that CD repress, like what, 30 plus years later, still got number 1.
Year-end charts, even in 67 and 68, it still finished a top 10 album. So
Didn't it win album of the year? Didn't it win Was it the first rock album? I think I read that. Was it the first rock album to hit album of the year? I thought I read that.
Might have been.
I thought I read it. I think it won like 4 Grammys or something.
It got to number 3 in 2017 for its reissue.
2017, it was number 3.
Yeah, on the U.S. Billboard Top 200.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, for an album that's 50 years old at the time.
Yes.
That's how you know an album's timeless when it's still.
I think that pretty much sums everything up about this album, right? Right there.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
27 weeks at number 1.
27 weeks.
27 weeks. It spent 15 weeks at number 1 in the UK. In 68, it won 4 Grammys, including Album of the Year, the first rock LP to receive this honor. In 2003, it was included in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress.
Wow.
That's amazing to think that for 6 months or more that nobody could touch them.
Yeah.
Dude, 6 months.
Wow. 6 months. That's crazy. That's all crazy.
I mean,
this was the first rock album to win album of the year. Like, seems off. Like, you had Elvis striving.
I want to go back and look and see what albums were getting album of the year, you know?
Yeah.
See the list.
The thing about Elvis was he also didn't do anything international, like tours or anything.
No, he never left.
plus there was a lot of controversy when he came out.
Yeah.
So his wasn't gonna necessarily go to the top of the charts because a lot of people didn't want to play it.
Yeah.
That's true.
The teenagers wanted to hear it and see it, but maybe it was a Lawrence Welk album, one album of the year or something. Right?
Burl Lives.
Or some polka, some crazy polka album.
Andy
Okay.
Williams.
There you go.
I was just going to say Tony Bennett, but Andy Williams will work.
Who's the guy that was? Oh my God, I forgot.
Mel Torme.
I thought Mel Torme. I did think Mel Torme.
That's Judge Harry Stone's favorite singer.
Yeah.
That was Night Court.
Night Court. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Night Court.
Yeah, sessions began at EMI on November 24th, 1966, and subsequently Abbey Road Studios, marking the first time that the Beatles had come together since September. I mean, it's only a couple months, so I don't know what the point of that was, but they began with, we were talking about Strawberry Fields was the first track that they recorded, and then they followed it up with When I'm 64, and then the first session in the beginning of December, and Penny Lane. Those two were subsequently released as singles.
George Martin saying,
But those were on
Magical
Mystery Tour.
George Martin said like the biggest mistake he ever made in his career was not putting Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane on this album. Was the biggest mistake he ever made, because those songs are huge. That's like some of their biggest ones.
We were talking about that before. It was almost, they released them earlier. It was almost like a prelude to what was coming. It's like, where would you put those songs on this album? They fit. Don't get me wrong. But where would you put them?
It's like a normal track list.
Right here. I know where I would put them.
Where?
I would take out a couple songs and I would probably put out, take out Fixing a Hole and She's Leaving Home and put them there. Be done with it.
And you would take those two songs out?
I wouldn't.
And you would take those two songs out?
I wouldn't take any out. I put Strawberry Fields before She's Leaving Home, and Penny Lane between When I'm 64 and Lovely Rita. I think that'd be, or before the Reprise.
And Jim, you would take them out completely, and you
Well,
would just,
I mean,
it's okay, man. It's all right.
if it would be if it would make the album
The same.
too full, I guess you could say,
Right.
where you'd have to venture into the double EP, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably put them. I would probably put Strawberry Fields before, With a Little Help from My Friends. And probably
Yeah, that seems better.
I would probably do Penny Lane maybe right at the end of the album at right before A Day in the Life.
Yeah.
Basically, I guess I would put them after both versions of the Sgt. Pepper
Okay.
song, I guess.
I mean,
It's hard, man. It's hard.
I mean, for me,
I think
I guess the album,
But now that I think about it, I couldn't really do that with the first Sgt. Pepper because it kind of rolls right into.
yeah, we could still roll Penny Lane into it.
I'm not even gonna try.
Or,
Because I'm thinking right now what you said, that you would have taken out those two songs, put in the other two songs, but then I'm thinking, okay, so you take out those two songs and then come out with the A and a B, kind of like what they did with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, and those songs aren't as strong as those two songs, so it wouldn't work. So I have no idea. I wouldn't know where to stick them. I'm almost happy the way it worked out.
yeah.
I am too.
My thing is that
Because Magical Mystery Tour is one of my top Beatle albums.
and those two songs give you a reason to listen to it.
That's not
Yeah.
true, man. I'm the walrus.
the album definitely didn't suffer from those two songs being.
No, it didn't.
I mean, what's it going to do? Spend 57 weeks on number one? But it I don't think it you couldn't propel the album much further than it went, than it has gone, continues to go. Obviously, I mean, 32 million records worldwide,
and still going.
and it's still counting. It's more than so.
Wait till the next release.
Yeah,
re-release.
I just feel like, me personally, I'd like this album more if those 2 tracks were on here. That's just me.
No, that's cool.
But maybe if they did like a release, just add those 2 songs onto here. Because they've done
it's not like they couldn't.
John's saying that Magical Mystery Tour needed those 2 songs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Man, I love Magical Mystery Tour.
There are good tracks on it, but
I'm going to piggyback on what John said and say it needed it because it needed some more meat. You know what I mean? There wasn't enough there. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's only how many tracks are on that? 7, 8? It's a short album.
6.
Oh no.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
That's
11.
the full. Yeah, Full in a Hill, Blue Jay Way, On the Walls.
I mean, come on. Hello, Goodbye.
Yeah, All You Need Is Love.
All You Need Is
I
Love.
forgot Blue Jay Way was on that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite George Harrison tracks.
I like Fool on the Hill. I mean,
That's a good
Your
one.
Mother Should Know. I mean, to me, it's a great album. I love the
And it had
album.
a movie tie-in.
Right there. Raul and I were talking about before you came in about the notable songs and then the deep cuts. And we brought it up earlier about how there was a soft attempt to recreate this album with Magical Mystery Tour, what they had done. According to critics, they weren't successful, but I'm going to say fans would disagree with the critics. Fans should always disagree with the critics because the critics don't want their ass from the holding ground.
Yeah.
But
Are we critics?
yeah. But the deep cuts are what makes an album, this album in particular, because it's kind of the flagship for albums going forward.
So turd.
Even Pet Sounds.
Even Pet Sounds.
Dude, I love this album.
There's a question.
That sounds.
If this album would have been released before Pet Sounds, how would that have altered the direction of Pet Sounds?
Hopefully for the better.
Dang.
Just saying.
Maybe a little less elevator-y.
Yeah. That's like one reason why I was, I'm probably going to jump ahead again, but the song "She's Leaving Home," that sounded like it came off of Pet Sounds.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I could see
It
that.
makes sense because the Beatles were influenced by Pet Sounds when they made this.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
That one's a forgettable track for me.
And it's also the worst one on the album. Coincidence?
Yeah, it's not my favorite either.
It's one that when I'm listening to it, my brain skips over it.
Yeah.
Like it's not even there.
I usually just skip it entirely.
I don't skip through any of these songs. I gotta say, I just listen to it the whole way through. But that's probably one of the weakest ones, right?
For me, that's probably because today pretty much was the first day I actually listened to this album all the way through, and that's probably by far the only Beatles song that I can say I hate, that I just don't like.
I don't hate it, though.
Out of the entire catalog,
Yeah,
that's probably the worst song of all of them.
It definitely
for me.
out of the trifecta that is Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sergeant Pepper, it's definitely the weakest out of those three.
Yeah.
I don't know if I hate it. I think it's like a speed bump in the album. It's
Because the Beatles never, for me, I believe out of all the albums before and after this, they didn't have too many filler songs, and this was a filler song.
I would disagree with that. If you listen to, what was it, Beatles for Sale, there's a lot of filler on that album because like 8 tracks were covers. But I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I think they had more fillers than we think. I think I noticed that when we did the White Album.
That album's mostly made up with filler songs, but it works with that album.
It does.
Because everything's so different.
Mm-hmm.
But like listen to like Beatles for Sale.
That whole album, to me, there's not a bad song on.
No.
On
Even the
White
weaker
Album.
ones are better than most people's.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't hate She's Leaving. I don't. But
That song gives like seasickness.
Maybe I need to give it a couple more good listens.
no, it's not my favorite song on the album by no stretch of. It's one of the weakest, I think, too. But I don't hate it.
Wild Honey Pie is great, John.
Yeah, that song's awesome.
I don't think I have the capacity to hate that song because I don't think I've ever actually heard it. There's,
Really?
I mean, there's listening to it and then there's hearing it.
You know, listening to this album today.
My brain skips it.
You know what song I used to like, and I heard it today, and I was like, you know what? The song that stuck out to me is When I'm 64. Today I heard it, and I was like, I'm not feeling this song like I used to.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I never really care for that song all too much. Anyways.
I like the lyrics, but I'm not crazy about the song. You
I like
know?
how Paul sings in this song.
Yeah.
Again, it's like one of his more different ways of singing.
Yeah, like we said before, he's got such a wide range that where he changes his voice for the song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Whatever.
sounds like that song comes out of the 1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the thing it's going for.
It's vaudevillian.
Yes.
64 and 67.
Yeah.
Probably around the 20s.
Well, before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it when I heard it today. I was like, I'm not feeling the song anymore.
Tens.
Yeah, the hundreds, 1900s.
Let's talk about the album cover. Did we? A little bit more?
Yeah, we
Aleister Crowley's on the cover, man. Come on, Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Edgar Allan Poe's on it.
Marlon Brando.
Bob Dylan.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Marlon Brando from the Wild Ones movie.
That's right. He's got the hat on, right?
Yeah.
Marlon Brando right there.
Are you able to zoom in?
Because if you ever seen that movie, there's a scene in the movie where they say that's where they could have got their name from or the idea for the Beatles, because I think Lee Marvin was the other motorcycle gang guy, and he's like, "Hey Johnny, we missed you. We all missed you. The Beatles missed you."
Yeah.
He says the Beatles is like a group of guys, like a gang, motorcycle club in the movie.
Now, amongst all these, Edgar Allan Poe, W.C. Fields, I love the fact that W.C. Fields, I've always loved the fact that W.C. Fields is on there. But you have this group of them right here. So you got the past,
Yeah.
and you got the present.
Which those Beatles were wax figures.
Yeah.
That's what those are, right?
Yeah, and everything else was cardboard cutouts. Because it's not like, I guess, made. Like it was edited.
It's like a collage.
Yeah, like as a collage. It's all real. So the whole set's real.
Is that Johnny Weissmuller behind them? With his head, that guy right there. That's Johnny Weissmuller?
I think so.
Hold on, I'll tell you.
Also,
I think that's
It looks like him.
Yes.
The doll on the bottom right wearing the Rolling Stones shirt.
Who's that?
The little doll. On the
Yeah.
bottom right. I think it says like
Welcome the Rolling
Cloth
Stones.
figure of Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple. Okay, that would have been a good guess. You got oh my god, what's this? That guy right there. Oh my god, the guy that wrote. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Which one?
The guy right behind the blonde in the white. That's the guy that he's an author.
This guy.
The
Oscar
picture
Wilde?
of Oscar Wilde. That's it.
I'm pretty sure because the Beatles had the Rolling Stones reference in it, that their album Actress has the Beatles hidden in the album cover. So all 4 of them are on it.
Wow. You got Dylan up in the corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got Gandhi poking his head out.
Where's
Karl
Gandhi?
Marx.
Oh yeah, Gandhi's right there. Oh, wow.
He's right above the lady in the yellow, I think.
Now at the top, at the top middle, see there's like that gap in the middle. See that?
Between Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Hitler was supposed to be on here,
No,
Right
really?
here.
and at the last minute, like, we can't do that, so you might have to take him down.
Yeah.
So that's where Hitler would have been, is he would have been
Right between Fred Astaire and
Edgar Allan Poe.
Edgar Allan
But
Poe.
is that Karl Marx?
Right here.
That's Karl Marx, correct?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
that's Karl Marx.
Which I'm pretty sure in some early pictures, I think he's on there. Like, because they took a bunch of different takes, of, like them standing in different positions,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure he's on one of them.
Adolf Hitler.
H.G. Wells is right next
Crazy.
to Karl Marx.
Which I can understand why they took him out.
Okay. I
Yes.
thought that
No.
was him.
Yes. I'm in total agreement with taking him out.
Is this Peter O'Toole right here?
I think it is. What is it? Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
53. That's Thomas Edison. Lawrence. Yeah, Thomas Edison. Or I'm sorry, Thomas Edward Lawrence.
Hmm.
From
Is that the
Lawrence
real
of-
Lawrence? I guess
Lawrence
that's the
of
real
Arabia.
Lawrence.
Lawrence of
Yeah.
Arabia.
He's the
Okay.
real one.
You know, I would have loved to just been in the room when they were setting this up and taking photos and everything.
Yeah.
Could you just imagine being there for this historical album cover photo,
It's one of the best album covers.
or even being
Like ever.
the lucky one to be included into the group? You know,
Yeah, definitely.
I always don't like how sad Ringo looks on the
Yes.
figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks.
like there's like consoling
it's
him.
like they're at a funeral.
He's like,
Yes.
he's like, oh man.
But going back, okay, so they put themselves not once but twice among all of these historical figures, right?
Yeah.
You think that's being modest, or
Well,
I think it's for the time it was a bold move. No,
Bob Dylan isn't super historical in this.
no, you're right. He's not.
Yeah. I think it's just a collage of just famous people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of question like the meaning. Yeah, they're wax, but it's their past representation of them.
Yeah.
And then this is them in the present. So what?
It's
Is it a
almost
future
like
statement.
it could be a future statement, or maybe they're now enlightened with all the things they know now and have experienced now.
Yes.
And the lights come on. It's almost like Dorothy coming into Oz, and now all the colors are vibrant and
Yes.
they're not in the dark because they've experienced things.
Hence all the historical figures.
Or do you
From-
think something about Lonely Heart have to do with everybody here, like in some way?
They all have. That's a great point, man.
As far as like Edgar Allan Poe, how he went out, how he died, and
Oscar Wilde. You got Marilyn Monroe up there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
I mean, I don't know.
Who's the blonde here?
That's some
Where-
kind of actress
Hold on, I'll tell you.
or play performer. I'm pretty sure.
Talking about on the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the gold dress.
That is Diana Dors,
Okay.
actress.
Actress. Okay.
The guy with the yellow hat, is that Fatty Arbuckle?
That guy there?
Yeah.
That looks like Laurel.
Is that
Yeah.
Laurel? Because I
No,
see Hardy.
Hardy. Sorry. Hardy.
Oliver Hardy. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Oliver
it's Laurel and Hardy.
There's-
'Cause-
Yeah, there's Laurel, right? Stan Laurel's right there.
Yeah.
they could be seen as like sad characters, right?
Were they? They weren't alive when this came
Yeah,
out.
they were.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were probably still alive.
They were.
Well,
Stan Laurel was. Oliver Hardy had passed.
That passed.
I believe Oliver Hardy died in the late 50s.
Crazy cover, man.
Uh,
Amazing.
40.
40 is Tom Mix.
That's a cowboy, right? Cowboy
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah, that I was trying to figure out who he was. I knew it wasn't Roy Rogers.
My first instinct that it was Gene Autry, but
Yeah.
41. Who's that next?
and you see on the top left corner they got Stewart, he was one of the original.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Stewart's.
Where? Which one?
The very left, peeking over the lady in the blue hat.
Who is that?
Stewart. What's his last name? He was the original, I think, bass player.
Oh, Sutliff.
And he ended up dying.
Really?
And, yeah. And that's kind of like, I think, what
He's
when Paul switched the bass.
yeah.
Wow.
He started I guess the haircut that the Beatles are known for. He
bob.
started that.
Yeah, and he brought like the leather jackets and stuff like that they were wearing before they got.
Yeah, the greaser look, which is my favorite iteration of the Beatles. I love that. Like that picture of him on the train cart.
Yeah.
So good. I just wish they stayed like that for a bit longer.
Who's the guy in the robe? Is he a boxer?
Boxer?
That is number 54. That is Sonny Liston.
Oh, Sonny Liston. Okay.
Boxer, yeah.
Wow, Sonny Liston. Bro, we could watch it. Look, let's get back to the songs, man. 'Cause
Yeah, we can do this all day.
we could look at this album cover. Yeah.
It's great they include this.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah.
Talking about like when I was younger and I'd buy a new album, I'd throw the album on and I'd just sit there and look through the album and read everything.
This is the perfect.
Think of the hours you could spend just looking at all this and looking at the names and
cutting out.
Jim, it was the best part of getting an album home and putting it on, dude. And just looking at the liner notes and everything.
yeah.
It's a lost love, art. I don't know.
You don't get that anymore when you stream your music,
No, you don't.
which is why I am a hoarder when it comes to physical media.
Mhm.
Yeah, we still like physical media when it comes to shoot. Today I bought some
7 DVDs.
some DVDs and Blu-rays and
We read comic books
Yeah.
real and we smell them. We're not on a Kindle reading, right?
Yeah.
Okay, favorite songs on this album. Worst songs on this album. Let's do this.
My favorite. What's crazy about this album is, if it being like probably their most popular album ever, I feel like there's still really underrated tracks on this album that like no one talks about. Which is
are
Deep cuts.
Good Morning and Lovely Rita. I feel like are the two super underrated tracks on this album. And I'm gonna go with Good Morning as my favorite. And probably that's in my top 3 Beatles songs.
I change my top Beatles songs almost every week, bro. With
Yeah.
every album we listen to, I change it.
my favorite is With a Little Help from My Friends, and my worst is She's Leaving Home.
I agree. I like Fixing a Hole. I enjoy
I
it.
love fixing a hole, man. I love fixing a hole. Love it.
And you know, that song reminds me. There's a Traffic song called the hole in my shoe, and that song reminds me of this one a lot.
Yeah. So
I like fixing the hole too.
lovely.
My-
There you go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Definitely Lovely Read and Good Morning are my two favorites on this album.
All right.
Perfect.
I think the best song on the album is A Day in the Life.
I like that one a lot. That would be my second choice for favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I think it's the best song. I didn't say it was my favorite.
Yeah.
I think A Day in the Life is amazing. I think it's one of those songs that just. But my favorite, I love Fixing a Hole. I just adore that song, dude. But the one I think is my favorite is Within You, Without You. I think that song is just mad. I could listen to that song on a loop and I'd be fine. And I wouldn't think I would like that song, and I freaking that might be my favorite Beatles song. Man, I could get lost in that song, dude. I freaking love it.
Donnie, how about you?
I too am a fan of Fixing the Hole, but A Day in the Life is not just my favorite song on the album. It's my favorite Beatles song, period.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's the best song on this album. It's amazing.
I remember
And
Here, go.
I don't know if there's some carryovers from Revolver, but not completely. And I could associate A Day in the Life with some of the songs that were on Revolver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Do you take it as a melancholy song?
There's some melancholiness to it.
It is, right? It's kind of a downer sometimes for me, but it doesn't stop me from loving it.
Right.
The final.
There's a lyrical flow to it.
Yes.
Yeah, that final note at the end.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
The way it just drones out. It's the perfect way to end the album.
Yes.
Dude, it's like these guys didn't make very few missteps, right? Shit.
No.
They
And
shouldn't for as long as they spend in the studio.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't touring, right?
Yeah, this was also the first time Ringo quit and learned how to play chess because he was so lonely in making this album.
Maybe that's why they put that sad picture of him in the back.
That could be.
And
Maybe that's why they did
he
it.
sat there by himself and played chess against himself.
Well,
Like
there
most
was
of the
a
album.
comment made in the thing I was reading earlier about them sitting around a lot doing nothing.
Actually, they got sidetracked a lot making this album, and one of the little sidetrack things they had is they made this like halfway through. They made this like 10-minute like I don't know what avant-garde song. It's basically like a precursor of Revolution Number 9, but I guess more to it. And they like just ran around the room and did whatever they could to make sounds and stuff until George Martin's like, okay, you need to like work on the album now.
That's
Because
enough.
the song was made for like this light show or something.
Mhm.
And it's called Carnival Lights, and it's the only Beatles song that's not been released. It was only played at that event in like 1967 and never shown since.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure Paul McCartney has the original like track of it and just hasn't released it yet since.
Where
So
did
that-
you read that?
It was something on some kind of interview he did. There is like a critic or something that did like a go through of the entire song, like breaking it down. He was there, and that's like all we've got to base it off of. It's just like him talking about it,
Legends, bro. Legends.
but it's never been unearthed. It's
Legends. Legendary.
in the vault.
It's Eddie and the Cruisers. It's legendary.
Which the day that song is released will change the world. Like, yeah, I think the only Beatles song that's never been released, that's like almost 60 years old,
dude, these guys were. They still make movies about them. What was that movie a few years ago where nobody knew about the Beatles except one guy?
Yeah, that was
yesterday.
Yes, yes, dude. Across the galley, across the universe, they made a movie of
Yeah.
that. These guys are. They're on a whole. It's everybody. It's the Beatles, and then there's everybody else, bro. I'm sorry.
foundation of rock.
Yeah, man. And they came so early, bro. It's
Iconic.
yes, they were that talented. They made that many mistakes. They handled all that stuff, and it's like, God bless, bro. They were just insane.
Also,
Ahead of their time because they changed, so much. And
God, they were the first ones for so much, right?
yeah,
God.
I don't think it's on any of the other versions, especially the vinyl version.
Mhm.
And you let the needle play all the way through. And instead of if you don't have it like stop and go back to the holder, it'll just
Mhm.
like keep going and it'll like do this like loop. And
like it's on a repeat.
yeah, like
When you get to the end of the album, instead of the needle picking up and moving back
it stops
to the
and,
home
like,
position,
makes a loop.
Right?
it just keeps looping at the
It
end.
just keeps going.
Yeah.
But it's like this like little bit of music, I guess.
I think there is. I think there is a little bit of music, right, or something.
I think if you like, I think it's on like Day in a Life, for the remaster version.
Yeah,
because it goes on for a bit longer. It plays the loop.
yeah, and I think it says drugs. It's fun to smoke marijuana, and that's where the origin of backmasking. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So everybody, a thumbs up for Sergeant Pepper's.
Yes.
2 big thumbs up, dude.
No.
I think it's a great ending. I think it's a great ending, bro.
Yeah,
That's how we're ending, but it's a great album to be the last one.
anything of the Beatles gets 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they're the Beatles, bro. The Beatles. Donnie, we spinning the wheel.
For
There
what?
ain't no wheel.
There ain't no wheel.
The wheel is gone. The wheel is gone. Come on, baby.
Oh no, I don't remember that. Look at that. John saying a worldwide release of All You Need Is Love via satellite. Wow.
Hmm.
No, I wasn't old enough. Crazy.
You weren't old enough. I definitely wasn't old enough.
Mm-mm. I think John put earlier that he's turning 64 in a month and a half.
When I'm 64.
So he was 10-ish? 10-ish around this time? Dude, I was born in 69, and they broke up in what year? 70, 71?
70.
And when I
Maybe
started
that's
listening to music, I was like 5 or 6 when I started. And my mom, dude, she was already talking about the Beatles were legends 6 years after they broke up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They were like, wow.
They got the Western Union. Tee-dee-tee-dee-dee.
Yeah.
Hey, this guy Raul was just born. The band is done. We're finished. That's what I tell my wife. My wife was
It's over.
My wife was born in 77, and she was born like a few months before Elvis died. I said, well, you caused it. Thanks a lot.
You killed
He heard-
Elvis.
He heard
her
you were born
fault.
and he couldn't take it.
Dude, there was no social media, bro. When Elvis died, that was crazy. That shit was nuts, bro. And
Imagine hearing that news.
I think he died like in the summer, like in August, right? Something
Yeah.
like that.
August like 14th or something like that.
Dude, when he died, bro, every channel was everybody just God. And I was a kid. I was 8. God, bro, that was massive. Felt like somebody in your family died.
Yeah.
God.
I saw a video of some dude went to like this dude's house and his backyard was completely like overgrown or something. And they went back to it and like pulled back the weeds and there was the ambulance like he died in. It's like in this dude's backyard, like just overgrown.
Yeah, he
And
since
they
then
got up into it.
he
and it's
saved
like,
it. He got it from the guy and cleaned it up and stuff and has it on display.
Yeah.
God. All right, so Donnie, what do we have in store for the future?
Well, there's an idea that we have composed to do like a best of episode, shall we call it? We're going to go through our thoughts on the albums that we have done. Let me think. Is there 40 of them? We've done quite a few.
Has it really been 40?
Well, remember they did a few before us.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
see.
we were here when season 2 started. We hopped on the tail end of season 1.
There's been a lot.
A lot of stinkies too.
There's been a few. There's been some that, yeah, we're going to talk about our favorites, our least favorites, and albums that we didn't know and surprised us,
And the biggest disappointments.
and the biggest disappointments.
Should we just not even mention the trifecta?
42
about-
albums, I think.
Because I'm sure they know by now that we don't like those albums.
Yeah, I think we'll just put them out. We'll throw them out at the beginning, and we're pretty unanimous in that sense, I believe.
Or you can just put it in the description box below.
Yeah, we don't. Our worst albums.
We do not like these albums.
Thankfully,
And we will not talk about these albums.
We've already talked about them.
Yeah, we talked about them enough.
They've already sucked an hour out of us. They ain't sucking anymore. It's done. They're done.
Well, they might still suck, but
Yeah, but they're not sucking anything out of us anymore. We're done.
thankfully, I was not here to review Hotel California. It's like I'm grateful about that. But I did still have to listen to it because I thought we were gonna do it, and we didn't. So I still had to listen to that album.
That
which
was a blessing in disguise.
I like that
That was
album.
bad.
That one I like. That one I like.
2 songs on it that
That
come
one I
on the
like.
radio and hear them 8 times in a row.
Yes, they play them a lot. When are we doing this, Donnie?
I don't know. Stay tuned. So I want to get with a couple of the folks that have been on with us. We had Puff on with us, talked about an album, and Unruly. And I'd also like to try my hardest to get Javi on.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
If we can manage to do that, it'd be a pretty full panel, but I think we can pull it off.
Get the return of Steve Whiting,
Steve, you get Steve on.
the great Steve Whiting.
That guy.
That guy.
That guy. And talk about our thoughts on the albums. How should I say this? The albums that we are going to talk about.
In the future?
No, well, that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, we have kind of put together another list of around 10 albums. And I think we're going to do the wheel again, just to add some fun to it, because had fun with the wheel.
I like the wheel.
Finding out what letting fate pick the album that we were going to discuss, and that list is going to be should be pretty fun, because I think there's only 2 or 3 of them that I've heard, and the rest of them that were picked that I've never heard. I've heard of them, never heard them, never listened to them. So the shoe is on the other foot, shall we say. So stay tuned for all that. Try to get the best of set up and going, and then if we can do it in 2 weeks, we'll do it in 2 weeks. I don't know how long an episode we want to do, but however long it takes, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Has the wheel been released yet? Like what albums we're doing? Or are we going to save that for next time?
I think I put them on there, but I'm not positive.
I don't think we've mentioned.
He's gone.
I don't think we've mentioned.
The wheel is gone.
He offed himself.
He doesn't want to talk about it right now.
Forget the wheel.
And I'm back.
There he is.
Hello.
Safe to say we have no wheel.
We'll do a wheel reveal for next time.
I do have it set up.
Tongue twister.
We can do the reveal at the end of the show of the best of show.
Sounds good.
And yes. I didn't think Yes, I do have it set up.
Excellent.
I don't know. Some of these are long freaking titles too.
Yeah.
And some of them are short.
It goes ...
And some of them are short.
And some of them are short.
Very short.
I can't wait to do one of my picks, because I don't know if you guys have heard that, and it's something that Jim's kind of familiar with, but Riley, I don't know that you're familiar with it.
I don't think I'm familiar with any of the albums that are going to be on.
I think I've heard maybe like 5 of the albums on the list.
I think I've heard mine.
I've heard the 4 we've picked, and I've heard one that you, Donnie, have picked.
And you guys haven't heard any of the ones I've picked, right? The 2 that I picked.
Nope.
You might have listened to one, right?
B-52s I've listened to, but the other one, no.
The other one's a fairly modern album too. It's within, I think, the last 10 years. So that's a little different for us, I believe.
Do we have ones on here that are that old?
We haven't done anything. We've done, I think, have we done anything in the 90s? Yeah.
The one I picked is 2002.
One I picked is from the early 90s.
Yeah, early mid 90s.
Both of them, actually.
I think the one I picked is from like 2016, 2015, 2012, something like that.
The ones I picked was 2002 and 1982. Were the 2 I picked. Got to keep it.
It's going to be fun.
Definitely. I'm excited because I got an album on here that none of you have heard.
The newest.
I got an album too that none of you have heard,
Yeah.
that are kind of interesting to see because it's totally off everything we listen to. We'll see.
The 3 newest albums that we've done are
Like 91 or something, right?
Southern Harmony was from 92.
Yeah.
Your Arsenal was from 92.
Mm-hmm.
And Static Age was from 96, but it was technically recorded in the late 70s. So
79. So that doesn't count, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think that counts. That one doesn't count. So 92, nothing past 92. Okay.
Yeah.
I got 2002, which 21 years.
It'll be interesting. Looking forward to it.
So excited because the 2 he's picked are perfect, amazing, fantastic.
We're gonna dance this mess around.
Do the mess around.
We're gonna dance this mess around.
We're gonna do the mess around.
We're gonna do the boogaloo.
Boogaloo.
We're gonna do the shy.
Why does that say having issues? I don't know. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who popped into the chat. Bub, Jackson Roy Kirk, John Stout, Unruly, K-pop. As always, those who are watching on the rewind, thank you for taking time out of your day to even watch 5 seconds this drivel that we put out. It really does mean a lot, and I hope you learned something. If not, I guess we're not doing our job.
Can't do nothing for you, man.
No shoes, no shirt, no dice.
Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to end.
Got